Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this regular called meeting of the Temple City Council, Thursday, September the 16th. If you please rise, the invocation will be led by Sylvia Mars, the Regent for the Betty Martin chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and then the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the members of the DAR Betty Martin chapter. Please.
If you would bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we are asking that you give wisdom and courage to the people, the young women and men that run our city, in helping them to do the right things for this city of Temple. We know it's very hard times, and we're asking that the wisdom you give them it's accepted by them. We ask this in your name. Amen.
And if you come forward, ladies, and lead us in our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, why don't you just stay right up here? Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is going to be a proclamation for Constitution Week, and we are privileged and pleased to have members of the Betty Martin chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution with us tonight. They have made this request for this proclamation. We appreciate that very much. I think, as I've said for the last several years, as we've had the opportunity to do this proclamation, I'm greatly appreciative for the fact that you bring this to us each year. I think outside of the Holy Bible, it is probably one of the most inspired documents written by man that is still in force, and hopefully it is still guiding and running our nation. And so we appreciate that. And so I offer this to you. This proclamation comes from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Temple. Whereas, during the week of September 17th through 23rd of 2010, the United States of America is celebrating the 223rd anniversary of the signing of the Constitution, a powerful document which embodies the ideals of liberty under law, designed to maintain our free government in perpetuity as a more perfect union and to secure the blessings of liberty by the consent of the governed. Whereas the United States Constitution, the oldest written instrument of democratic rule in the world still in use, is a law for rulers and people, equally in war and peace, and covers with the shield of its protection all classes of men at all times and under all circumstances. Whereas it is timely and appropriate for us to keep in our hearts and minds the marvelous achievements of the constitutional republic and the high ideals of our founding fathers. And whereas this special observance offers the opportunity for the American people to rededicate themselves to the great principles that have formed the basis for our national strength and prosperity, it is truly a marvel that a group of people assembled from a small population could develop a document capable of guiding the course of this nation for over 200 years of growth to become the greatest on earth. And now, therefore, I, William A. Jones III, Mayor of the City of Temple, Texas, in recognition of the importance of our Constitution and in recognition of the 223rd anniversary of its signing, with great pride, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd of 2010 as Constitution Week in the City of Temple, Texas. And I encourage all citizens to join with the Betty Martin chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution to renew and deepen their appreciation of the unique and precious heritage passed on to us by our founding fathers, which heritage finds its most sustained and formal expression in our nation's guiding beacon, the United States Constitution. In testimony whereof I witness my hand and the seal of the City of Temple, Texas, on this, the 16th day of September of 2010. Sylvia, I'm going to present this to you, and I appreciate you very much for bringing this to us again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I speak?
Absolutely. Let me give you a microphone here.
I'm loud.
No, well, but we're televised.
My students always said you're so loud.
But it just makes it easier for the recording.
Is it on?
It is, I believe.
Okay. As a citizen of this country, I dare you to read the Constitution again. It's such an amazing document. Read it again. We live by it, hopefully, every day. It's our freedom. It's all based on our Constitution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is to receive a report. And Ms. Tanya Gray, the Executive Director of Keep Temple Beautiful, will bring us a report regarding the annual litter survey. And/or Ms. Orasco. All right. We have our board member, Orasco.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yes, we did a switcheroo. Just want to briefly tell y'all an update like we do every year about the results of our litter survey. The Litter Index is a tool that was designed by Keep America Beautiful, and it's used all over the nation to measure litter in a community, and it's actually required for all the affiliates to use. The index helps communities to focus their cleanup efforts. In Temple, our survey covers 5 different areas: parks, schools, residential, commercial, industrial, together, and thoroughfares in each of the 4 council districts. So in every district, each of those items are covered. It's a team of our board members that goes out. It's the goal is it's the same team, goes about the same time of year to the same places each year, so that once they get there year to year, we're kind of seeing how things are progressing. Any minute now, that's okay. The results for the 2010 will be up. These scores are like golf. The lower the score, the better. It's between 1 and 5 is where we rank them. And with the exception of parks, which went from great to almost perfect, there's a slight trend upwards in the litter that we have. The team felt that overall our community is doing very well in this area, and especially once the road construction is completed by TxDOT, even the numbers that stand out a little bit, you can see that in roads, should get back to where they are. One of the quotes from the team was that our parks could hardly be better, and we're really proud of them for that as well. We're working with the Solid Waste Department to promote litter-free events for all city-sponsored activities, and continue to help with neighborhood and community-wide cleanups, with school campus cleanups, recycling efforts, cigarette litter program, as well as our Put It Here anti-litter campaign. All right, these are the litter survey results that were tallied by district, and I don't know that we have done that for you before. Keep Temple Beautiful appreciates the support of the mayor and the council members and the city administration on many projects that we undertake each year. Our partnership allows both Keep Temple Beautiful and the city of Temple to accomplish considerably more than each of us could accomplish alone. And just to point out some things, as y'all are looking at that going, hey! For example, roads in District 3, that's 31st at the Loop. All the construction, all of that going on, and this was last May, I believe, when it was conducted. And Danny, the commercial industrial, that's industrial, and North 3rd. So if you have some interest in those particular areas, but overall, the team really felt like there was, this is an area we're doing well in.
Is that District 4 is the cleanest? Is that what it says?
For a discussion like that. Healthy competition is always good. All right, and last slide. Next year, we're really excited. We'll be moving to what's called a Community Improvement Index that's been developed by Keep America Beautiful. And rather than just looking at litter, it's going to be a tool that will help us improve the community in other ways and provide some metrics for program development. So in addition to the litter survey, which we'll still continue to do, there is going to be metrics on graffiti, illegal signs, abandoned and junk vehicles, and outside storage. Again, these are their categories. And then a third component is going to be a focus area study, which will inventory existing public education, ordinances, enforcement, and resources and tools available in the community that address litter prevention, beautification, and waste reduction and recycling. So we are excited about next year that is going to be a much more broad-based look at our community, and hopefully we'll give y'all some information on kind of where we stand and everyone where improvements can be made. As we come to y'all each year, we also go to the school districts because schools are covered in our litter survey and report to the school board. And our very first year we did it, schools did not do well. And the very next year, they were great. And so it really just is kind of providing information that may not otherwise be available so that improvements can be made where possible. And then one other thing I wanted to let you know about, I think you got a copy, is McAllister's has graciously allowed us to do a fundraiser this Tuesday night, and would encourage everyone to not cook. Go to McAllister between 5 and 10, and they're donating 10% of all proceeds for the evening to Keep Temple Beautiful. So that'll be a great little bonus for us and help us with a few more projects.
And it's actually September 21st.
Oh,
Tuesday.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tuesday.
From 5 to 10 p.m. So
Yeah.
please come out and enjoy your food, have good conversation, and help us in regards to donations. Thank you.
And that was Tanya Gray, our executive. So great. Thank you for presenting, Zoe.
All right, we'll be glad. If you have
report.
specific questions,
Yeah.
just let us know, and we'll get you information.
Great.
Thank you.
We do. Thanks. While we're on Keep Temple Beautiful subject, and we can always use the funds, we're always looking for folks to sign up on water bills to make a contribution, and so that's really a major source of our funding for Keep Temple Beautiful. So, and also this past Saturday, the 13th of September, was Household Hazardous Waste Day. It's a joint project between the City of Temple Solid Waste, Keep Temple Beautiful, and Central Texas Council of Governments. It had been a couple of years since we had one in Temple. Central Texas Council of Governments generally sponsors those. They're grant-funded, and they try and hold them in different areas within the 9-county COG area. So we had to cancel one because of funding earlier this year, like last year, I forget the timing. But anyways, this one was very well received. The staff, the City of Temple, Nicole, your department did just a fabulous job of getting it all set up, moving things along. That was at the Service Center over by the Loop and Avenue H. I actually sat in line for a while, but it moved very smoothly. It was handled so well, and I was glad to get rid of that paint out of my garage after all this time. But those are very, very beneficial for our community. They take tires and paints and CRTs and just so many different things that we certainly do not want in our landfill, and that people have a hard time disposing of. So it's a great event, and thanks to all of our partners, Keep Temple Beautiful, our city, Solid Waste Department, and Central Texas Council of Governments. So thanks for that, and we'll probably have some statistics, I think, coming up in the not-too-distant future. Oh, was it? Okay. Well, it wasn't able to leave early, and I didn't get to read the papers. So, good. All right. Well, excellent. So, thanks for bringing the report. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is an opportunity for public comment. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to the meeting. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. And no discussion or final action will be taken by the council as a result of these comments. We have several people signed up to speak. It looks like most of the comments are relating to the CUP request for the lounge, 57th Street. And I'll certainly be glad to give any of you who are signed up the opportunity to speak at this time if for some reason you need to leave. But it shouldn't be a terrible long time before we get to that item. It should be pretty quick. So you can defer and then speak during the public hearing portion if you'd like. But so that's I've got Ms. McGuire, Ms. Callaway, Mr. Fisher, and Ms. Aguilar. Everybody okay with speaking during the public hearing portion? Okay, great. And then I have Jennifer Kilgore signed up on a different matter. It's Ms. Kilgore? Okay, all right. If you'll come forward, please step up to the podium, and there's a microphone there. And again, please state your name and address for the record.
It's Jennifer Kilgore, Martha's Kitchen.
Okay.
I put myself there 3 months ago.
because I'd heard the rumors about what was going on. During my time living there is verbal, physical abuse. The food is outrageous. It's not fit for animal consumption. People have been getting sick, vomiting, diarrhea. The prostitution that's going on over there, they hang right out there, right in front. And the drug flow that's going in and out of there is horrendous. I have seen people, pregnant women, have to go to the hospital because of the food, because of the heat. There's no air conditioning. They have to work at the thrift store 6 days a week. They cannot go out and look for a job. There are good, hard-working people that can't stand it there because of the conditions, the stealing, the abuse. They're hitting the streets. They say it's better on the streets than it is inside. There needs to be a big change, a huge change. And what I'm looking at and what other groups are looking at is either sweep it clean inside or find another location. And I've got a church group that's willing, if you're willing, if you've got empty property somewhere, like the nursing home by the college, let us put that to use and get all of this off of G Street. That place I call it Hal's Kitchen. I don't call it Martha's Kitchen. It's not running the way it was set up to run at the very beginning. There are good people, good families. Not everybody is a crackhead. Not everybody is an alcoholic. They're a good family, hardworking, and vets. They have to leave it. They can't take it there. They don't have the freedom to do what they have to do to get back on their feet again. And all I'm hoping and praying for is that you'll listen and something can be done about it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kilgore. If everybody else is okay with waiting until the public comment period, then that concludes our public comments. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed under this section, consent, are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by the council on any item, it may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and it will be considered separately. Council, this is item 5A through M, I believe, and we've had a request to remove item M for individual consideration. Any other items that you wish to remove for consideration, question, presentation, or voting purposes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion for item 5A through N, less item M. Motion to approve. Second. I have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda as presented, except item M. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Linda? Aye. Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 5M is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing acceptance of grant funding from the Texas Department of Transportation, Aviation Division, Airport Project Participation Grant Fund for rehabilitation and overlay of runways, taxiways, and aircraft parking apron, lighting, and related airport improvements at the Drawn Miller Central Texas Regional Airport in the estimated amount of $7,663,450. And I believe staff has just requested this be tabled at the present time, that there's still some work going on before this is ready to be brought forward. Yes, sir. Okay. Council will entertain a motion to table.
Motion to table item 5M. Second.
Motion is second. There's no further discussion. Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Linda? Aye. Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 6 is a first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a conditional use permit allowing the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption more than 50% and less than 75% of the gross revenue for a proposed lounge in a 4,939 square foot leased area located on lots 2 and 3, Block 22, Skyline, Section 1 at 2327 South 57th Street. And Mr. Mabry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The applicant for this case is Robert Flores, representing the property owner, Mark Bounds. The applicant requests the conditional use permit to sell the alcoholic beverages in a proposed lounge or nightclub where the receipts for the on-premise consumed alcohol would be between 50% and 75% of the gross revenue. The property is zoned general retail. It has frontage on 57th Street, South 55th Street, and West Avenue Z. One of a couple reminders I'll give you that this case requires a supermajority for approval, so 4 affirmative votes would be needed to approve this case due to the denial that was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was several speakers, some of whom spoke in favor of the request, and many of whom spoke against the request. Here's an aerial of the subject property, outlined in yellow on the screen. The nearest protected use would be Grace Presbyterian Church, which is just short of 500 feet from door to door from the subject property, and that's shown on the aerial on your screen. There is a paint store to the north, single-family dwellings to the east, a gym in the same building in another leased space to the west, and then the church that I just mentioned to the south. And there's additional homes to the east that I just wanted to bring in on the presentation, since they play a role in what has happened so far with this case. Future land use and character map calls for the property and much of its surroundings to be auto-urban commercial, as shown on the screen. The thoroughfare plan designates South 57th Street, upon which this property has frontage, as a minor arterial. And then West Avenue Z and South 55th Street are local streets, and there are 2 existing curb cuts on South 55th Street. The property is served by public utilities in terms of water and sewer, as shown on the screen. This is a zoning map for the area. You can see the yellow shaded in area is the 2-family or zoned area to the east of the subject property, a residential neighborhood for sure. The other zonings in the area are commercial in type. The submitted site plan for the conditional use permit is shown on your screen. It would be part of the ordinance that would grant this conditional use permit if it were approved by you, with some modifications that are recommended by staff if it were approved. The zoning ordinance sets forth 7 general criteria for conditional use permits when you're considering these CUPs, just to consider in your deliberation. In regard to the first one about with the proposal diminished property values, staff has received 4 written responses related to the location of the proposed lounge across the street from the residential area and the church. The respondents do believe that allowing this use to take place would be a detriment to their property values. In regard to number 7, whether there's sufficient landscaping and screening to ensure harmony and compatibility with adjacent property, there is a staff recommendation that tries to address this concern a bit by providing a buffer strip along one of the street frontages that I'll show you in a moment. Also, number 4 has to do with ingress and egress driveways onto the property. The slide I'll show you in the staff recommendation tries to address concerns related to that as well. This aerial shows a conceptual graphic of the staff recommendation that you would see in the staff report for if this case is approved. It is to provide a 10-foot landscape strip along the South 55th Street frontage, along with 1 tree per 40 linear feet, which would amount to 10 trees along that South 55th Street frontage, and to provide a wood fence that is between 6 and 8 feet in height to act as a screening device for the properties that are along 55th Street on the other side. In addition to that, the staff also recommends, if this case were approved, to recommend closing off the 2 of the driveways that are along 55th Street as well, with matching curb that's along the 55th Street frontage of the subject property. An alternative to the landscaping recommendation that we would also that you could also consider would be, instead of the trees and fence combination, to just have a solid evergreen 5-foot-tall living landscaping screen along that entire frontage as well, as an alternative to this what you're seeing on the screen right now. There were 6 notices mailed out about this conditional use permit, and 4 were returned in disagreement of the proposal, and none were returned in agreement from the surrounding property owners. The church to the south submitted a response as well. They received courtesy notice, but they weren't in the 200-foot state-required notification radius, but they did still submit a comment. So even if the Planning and Zoning Commission had not recommended denial, the number of people and the land that their areas occupy would have required a supermajority vote as well, either way. So I'll move on. At its September 7th, 2010 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote 6-0 to recommend denial of the conditional use permit request. I would just add staff's recommendation that if you do end up recommending approval and voting on it, to please incorporate the staff recommendations which follow, which are the normal conditional use permit requirements that go along with on-premise consumption that are found in the zoning ordinance related to the ability of the conditional use permit to be repealed if elements of the permit are broken by the property owner. The second recommendation is, of course, that the site plan and floor plan that have been submitted are exhibits to the ordinance that grants the conditional use permit. That driveways along South 55th Street must be closed off with a curb identical to the existing curb along South 55th. And then finally, that a 10-foot wide landscape strip must be installed to the property's approximately 400-foot frontage along South 55th Street. The strip must include automatic irrigation, living ground cover, and either a wood fence between 6 and 8 feet in height and a 2-inch caliper 5-foot tall tree per 40 linear feet for a total of 10 trees, or a solid screen consisting of evergreen shrubs, a minimum of 6 feet in height and planted 36 inches apart for a large total of about 116 shrubs. So just as if the thing is recommended for approval, I would like you to consider adding that recommendation to your approval. And at this point, I can answer any questions that the council might have on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Mabry. Council, any questions prior to going to public hearing? This item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. If you wish to speak before the council on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. And you can just come up if you like, or I'll... Okay, great.
Good evening, guys. My name is Robert Flores. My address is 419 Big Timber. We were here last week and spoke to in front of the committee about us applying for a conditional use permit at the location on 57th Street. I lived in Temple because I was a little kid, graduated from Temple High School, and basically we're trying to just open up my own business where it's going to be an upscale lounge, provide different entertainment for Temple, and they're trying to do something different for Temple. You know, since last week, with the paper, the TV, and everything, we've received a lot of positive feedback ever since last week. All the negativity from the committee here last weekend, everything was in the paper. We did make some copies this weekend. We did get a petition because people started calling me left and right trying to get some type of petition. So we did receive a petition, got over 100 signatures. So we want to bring that up to you.
Sure.
And this was over the past weekend. And also make copies of, I don't know if y'all got a chance to read the newspaper last week, some of the comments towards the building and for pretty much the business. I made copies for everybody going. Y'all got a chance to read it. Ms. Monroe did come up to speak about the building and pretty much stereotype the type of business we're going to be opening up without even without us even opening up the building. our building was pretty much stereotyped before even if it's open. The pastor did come out and talk about the church, and we are ways away, I believe, it's 500 yards away from the church, which is compliant with the conditional use permit. Also, there were a lot of negativity about the houses that are right across the street. But it was going to be facing their houses. If you look at the houses, there's like the map of our houses. There's actually 2 vacant lots right across the street. Our front door is actually facing the church, and so all the houses are basically facing the side view of the property there. Like I said, the pastor did come up and mention some stuff about church activities. They mentioned that we were going to be open weekends, evening from 7 p.m. till, of course, 2 p.m. And did pull some of the last 3 months of the church's activities. But they mentioned that there's activities on the weekends, and I don't see any activities for the past 3 months on the weekends. So I do work a full-time job. I'm a finance director. So I got a full-time job. So this would be more of a weekend thing in Temple. And Ms. McGuire, I believe she did it. She made it seem more of like a horror story, a preview of anybody goes to the movies. Nobody to go watch the movie. You want to hear a preview on the movie. And I think she made it seem a little more horror with, of course, the words she expressed herself in the paper and stuff too. So all I'm asking for is what I did tonight is for your approval for a conditional use permit. That's what we're applying for. Not to open up the building, but actually a conditional use permit. So because we're looking at that situation too. So if you got any questions or comments, I'm going to answer any questions for y'all.
Great. We might have you come back up after the rest of the comments. Thank you, Mr. Flores.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm Isla McGuire, and I live across the street from where the proposed light nightclub will be. My address is 2325 South 55th Street. I have to apologize to y'all tonight in advance. I'm suffering from a mild case of laryngitis, and I'm going to do my best to make good use of my 3 minutes. I'm here.
You're not limited. But
Okay, thank you.
You don't have 3 minutes in this.
Thank you. I won't have to talk quite so fast. I'll pause for breath. I'm here to protest the bar opening 120 feet from my bedroom window. I don't want that bar there. No one would. I've presented over 100 signatures of community members who don't want that bar there. Please hear us. Ms. Rosa Hernandez with the LULAC Foundation spoke at the P&Z meeting, and hers was the voice of reason. She stated that locating that bar there was not a good idea, but that race should not be a factor in the decision. I applaud her honesty, and I could not agree with her more. This issue has nothing to do with race. Our neighborhood is homogeneous, where decent people of all races are welcome. We're not fighting to keep Mr. and Mrs. Flores out of our neighborhood. We're fighting to keep a bar out of our neighborhood. A person's worth has nothing to do with their race and everything to do with their code of ethics. It's an unethical decision for a businessman to try to ramrod a nightclub into a residential neighborhood against the wishes of the majority of the community. Mr. Flores has made a bad decision, but I'm not against him. What I'm against is a nightclub 120 feet from my bedroom window. I asked Mr. Flores to show his own sense of family and community values by discontinuing his assault on our family and community values. I'm asking our city to please refuse to hear his lone voice above our united voices over 100 strong. Locating this business in a residential neighborhood will place a heavy burden on the city as well as our community. It will cause a steep decline in property values and render our neighborhood less safe. This is established fact, not speculation. I stated at the P&Z meeting that Mr. Flores wants to use our neighborhood, make money on our backs, and at the end of the day, he will go home to his nice, safe neighborhood. He denied that and proclaimed that he wanted not only to become a member of our community, but he actually intended to benefit our community. I invited him to elaborate on his plan to benefit our community with his lounge, and his silence spoke volumes. As the commissioners questioned Mr. Flores, he made several very enlightening statements. The most telling one when he blurted out that he only wanted to be there for a year or two, 3 at the most. His words confirmed what I had just said. All he did was tell us when the end of the day would come. In his own words, a year or 2, 3 at the most. He has no intention of becoming a member of our community. He's a businessman, and his business strategy is to use up our neighborhood and then move on. Mr. Flores either doesn't realize or he just doesn't care that by the time he's done with our neighborhood and moves on to his next business venture, our families and our community will have suffered irrevocable harm because the blight of his conditional use permit remains with our neighborhood forever. I'm asking the wise members of this city council, please don't give him our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. McGuire? No? Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am? Yep, that's okay. We'll get you next. This gentleman was on his way up, so that's okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Don Yanis, live in between Troy and Temple, Texas.
What is your last name again? Sorry.
Yanis.
Yanis. Okay, thank you.
I'm here basically because of what I've read here. But as far as you having a legitimate concern about what's opening in your neighborhood, you do. You should. You should know what's going to open in your neighborhood and how it's going to impact you. But I sure there's laws, and I know there's laws from the state, county, local laws that are governing, this facility. And Robert is a businessman. He's a very smart businessman, and I assure you that he's going to abide by those rules. Spoke with him a little bit on his insurance, the amount of insurance he's got to carry. I guarantee you his insurance will not tolerate very much of any concern to him. But so he was a smart man. He's a successful man, and I want him to keep being successful. Like I said, that's why I know he's going to follow all the rules to protect the neighborhood in that manner. But there's a little bar. Is it called the Green Room? How far is it away? I didn't notice on him. I thought it was behind the building.
It is where this GR square is
So
here.
we've got a bar already right there, huh? I haven't been to it. I just seen it, but I know there's a bar there. So there's one already in the vicinity. I don't know how that's impacted the neighborhood. This club, I know that. Would I go through the neighborhood? No, I think I'd take 57th out that way and get to my house. I'd get out, unless I live in the neighborhood. And it's going to be an upscale club. I don't know how many people have ever been to that Tejano club. Tejano means Texan, not Mexican, Texan. And I have to go now to either Round Rock, Austin, San Antonio. And what you see in these Tejano clubs, bars, whatever you call it, well-dressed people. Well-dressed people, some successful people in there. And we have a good time. I think it's not what's made out to be this bar, but it's well-dressed people having a good time. It's pretty nice to see. I enjoy it. And it's a shame that we can't have Tejano music in this area. It's still going pretty strong, San Antonio, Austin area. Temple area, widespread, I don't know. Maybe we can't open up a club, but what I did get, well, money up here also is, I'm going to quote Ms. McGuire. Tejano sounds like Mexican bar to me. McGuire said, there's a lot of gang-related activities to Mexican activities. Graffiti, violence, criminal activity, litter. So, I helped Albert get somebody's name on the petition, and as I was getting their signatures, I asked everybody, have you ever been in a gang? Out of all the people that I asked, none of us have been in a gang. I've never been in a gang. I don't know. Is there something in Temple? Probably. I don't know. The gang, I'm Mexican, so if I'm going to be connected to gangs, I've got a nice gang. I've got 4 beautiful kids that'll give me 4 beautiful grandkids. That's about the extent of my gang activity. And so that's my gang, if I'm going to be linked to it, because I'm a Mexican-American. Violence, I think that's pretty much all races. There's violence in all the races. Criminal activity, I think, goes the same way. As far as litter, before I came up there, I took a drive in Temple area where I knew was predominantly Mexicans, Hispanic, and I also went to Belton. And I looked at their yards and the plaque. Of course, I didn't look inside their homes, but yeah, they weren't the best of homes, but they were clean. My mother lives in the neighborhood just out here on 39th Street. I think her yard's a award-winning yard. So I don't know about litter. Graffiti, when I own a club, do I want to go paint something? No, I think I got a lot better things to do than go paint something. I think I've seen that maybe a lot in adolescence. This club's going to be, I'm not sure if it's 18 above or 21 above, but I don't think we're going to be painting on anything. Like I said, I'm never painting anything either, so if that's linked to Mexicans, I've never had done graffiti. So, but I disagree with Ms. McGuire with that quote that it was not racially motivated. Because of that quote, and it's in the paper, you probably got a copy of it. But you know, that's what really got me up here. And I want Robert to be successful also. He's been successful, and I want him to continue to be successful. So, will it help Temple? I think it will, because like I said before, the Hummer Clubs, you'll see well-dressed people in there. So, you know, look out Cavenders, because we dress Western. Look out Cavenders and the hair salons, because we like to look good in the place. I don't need it, but my wife does. I think it will benefit Temple, and I just don't see people going through the neighborhood. You know, of course, I can't stop that. Maybe it looks like there's something trying to be done about it. But so that's kind of what I was here just to express. I hope I wanted Ms. McGuire to know that Mexicans aren't just this. We're good, law-abiding people, just like everybody else. You know, just I don't know. It says here you're not from here. You moved here in '99. I was born and raised in Temple, and I don't know if all you guys were born and raised here in Temple, but, you know, we're a mixture of races. And we get along well. I think we get along well. Will there just be Mexicans in this board? No. I guarantee you there'll be a mixture. You go to any restaurant, church, there's a mixture of races in these, because that's just the way City Temple is. And it has been as long as I remember. And I don't think it's changed. Driving around a little bit, I don't think that's changed. So I'll close with that, but I hope I've changed a little bit of the view of how you view us, Ms. McGuire, because we are just little people. Yes, ma'am. I was with your quote here. That's why I thought, you know, how you viewed us.
Please keep your comments to the council.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just went off the quote, Mr. Clark. That's all. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to clarify who we are, and you can get up and speak again if you wish, but that's all.
I'll ask everyone to please direct your comments towards the council if you don't mind, and we don't get into dialogue back and forth.
Like I said, it was just a quote that I wanted to clarify, and I was hoping to make a point to Mr. Barr that just because we're Mexican doesn't mean we're involved in all this. I guarantee you that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Yanush.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Encouraging me to get up real quick.
You're certainly welcome to respond.
I addressed that at the P&Z meeting, and I don't believe he was there. Brennan Peel spoke with me, and, you know, I think there was a miscommunication here. I'm not prejudiced. Some of my best friends are Mexican, Asian. It's just, it sickens me to hear this. Mr. Peel asked me, what kind of bar will it be? And I said, I don't know. That flyer says Tejano Country Live. That sounds like a Mexican bar of some sort to me. We talked on for maybe 30 minutes, and at the end, he asked me, what are your fears of having a bar in your neighborhood? And I said, I'm worried about criminal activity, gang-related violence, loitering, littering. I gave a whole host of serious fears that I have. And the noise level, I mean, you can have the nicest bar in the world, but the noise level, I'm 120 feet from their bar, my bedroom. But anyway, I'm getting carried away here. But Mr. Peel put all that in one quote that I said because it was a Mexican bar. I was worried about litter and loitering and criminal activity. That, I think all those things are inherent in any bar, in any, I'll just go ahead and tell you, I owned a bar for 9 years. My sister owned a bar for 14 years in the Virgin Islands, and I owned a very clean neighborhood bar, although it wasn't in a residential area, but it was like Cheers. Everybody had assigned seating. We came in and sat in the same place every night. And we had a wonderful group of people, but when you have a bunch of intoxicated people in a room, there's always potential for trouble, and when trouble breaks out, you can't have enough security. But anyway, my main thing, I'm not trying to take up a lot of time, I'm not prejudiced, and I'm not worried because that bar says Tejano Country Live. Nancy Daniels was just here, I could have quoted, I don't care if it's the Daughters of the American Revolution putting a bar. I don't want a bar that close to my house. It's that plain and simple.
Thank you, Ms. Farrar.
Thank you.
Now it's your turn, Matt. Yes.
I moved your podium. I hope you don't mind. I want to get a little closer to you. Sorry, I ran into it. Anyhow, I'm Judy Calloway, and I live at 2325 South 55th Street. Miss McGuire is my sister. We share a house. And there are many senior citizens in our neighborhood who can't come down here. They can't get around very well. So we took up our petition, and we hope that bringing the petition down here, that their voices could be heard as well, because they can't get out to come down here. And since the story was in the newspaper the other day, last week after the other meeting, we have had quite a few calls and people dropping by with cards and thanking my sister for all the work she's doing to try to keep the bar out of the neighborhood. This is one sweet lady that called us today and wanted my sister to come and take her picture to bring down here because she can't come down, but she wanted to be heard. She is 89 years old. She's been widowed for 14 years. She lives right around the corner from us on 55th Street Terrace, and she was so fearful that a bar was going to be in our neighborhood that she was so thankful to my sister for the work that she is trying to do to keep us from doing this. And, we are not asking for special treatment, special permits, or anything. The only thing that we really want is to be allowed to be peacefully in our homes and have a nice, quiet, and safe neighborhood the way it's been ever since we've been in it. And so I am pleased just asking you to vote no to a nightclub that if opened, I paced this off, it will be 93 steps from our front door to the front door of their bar. That's 93 small little steps. And we please just do your best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Calloway.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Heron. I live 3608 South 31st Street. I've known Ms. Flores for years, and really all I can say is, wouldn't the community over there rather have it to where they can control the situation as opposed to let things just get out of hand? I've been to bars, I've been to clubs. Things can get crazy if it's not controlled. If you can control the environment, you can put a stop before anything major happens. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Isabel Flores, and I live at 201 Rayburn Court, Dalton, Texas, 76513. And I was here at the last meeting, and I heard both sides of the argument. What I don't understand is that some of the opposing side is against my brother's establishment that was finally open. Hopefully you all agree. There's another location not too far away from this location that might open. They call the Green Room. I don't understand if we're concerned about safety. There's one already there. Not to mention there's a corner store or some grocery store right across the street from there. I mean, crime, safety is everywhere. I mean, you go to anywhere, Walmart, the mall, anything can happen. My brother will have security inside the building as well as outside the building. Temple PD will be there. This will make, I believe, the community much safer. It will be much safer. It will be watched over. Also, what you have to bear in mind is that Temple, we've been here our entire lives. I mean, we grew up here and everything. We graduated police court, Temple High School and everything. And it's a beautiful place to live. I believe the music, my brother will have different types of music in the area, country, Tejano, a bit of everything to bring inside Temple. To a lot of people go out to Austin, go to Killeen, to other places to listen to that type of music, and this would be a live, beautiful entertainment place to go to. You shouldn't just view it as, oh my gosh, they're selling alcohol, they're selling liquor, oh, prostitutes and drug dealers will be there all the time. That won't be the case. I mean, it will be controlled. We are a very respectable, family-oriented family. We are always doing things for one another. All of my sisters work in the medical field. It'll be a beautiful establishment. Have an open mind. I guarantee if you go, you'll enjoy yourself. You know, you don't have to drink, but for the music, for the entertainment, have an open mind. You know, I heard in the last meeting, Ms. McGuire had mentioned that she attends the Green Room. I don't understand how she likes one place, but yet, wait a minute, not the other place, but hasn't even opened yet. Give it a chance. I guarantee you'll hear so much great news about this area, this location. You'll hear, it'll be well known. A lot of great bands from all over the United States, a huge diversity will come, bringing in business, much revenue for the city of Temple. We're already known, but we'll be even well known for our music, our diversity, our open-mindedness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flores.
My name is Mary Ann Agalon, and I live at 2722 West Avenue Z. And as far as the Green Room, the stores that are there, they're not on 55th Street. They're on 57th. They place here. We don't hear anything from the Green Room. Nothing. We don't have any kind of problems. But if I wanted to have, if I wanted to live in a neighborhood with a bar or lounge in my yard, I would have done so by moving next to one and pay lower taxes and lower payments on my house. And now there will be a bar, so-called lounge, and who is going to adjust my taxes? My property will depreciate in value. This year I tried to get a permit for a carport, but it was denied because it was too close to the city property line. My house faces Avenue Z, but the garage is 55th, and I use the 55th entrance. Okay, but now I might have a bar in my yard, and so how will it benefit our neighborhood or us? We have to live there. We have to. If we have to have a bar 100 feet from our front door, we don't like it. We don't want it.
We are all elderly people that live there. And we have grandchildren that are, I'm afraid that my grandson will open the gate. Now I'm going to have to put locks on there so he will not go to the street where someone can run over him. That is our concern, because we're all old. We're old in age, but not in our hearts. We live there. We love it. When our husbands died, it was different. There was no bar, the green room was not there when I moved in. And now another bar across from us is devastating to us. Because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the future. That is what our concerns are. We're trying to keep our yards beautiful by having people come in and work for us. Ms. McGuire and her sister, they work there constantly in the yard. I'm having work done in my yard all the time. I'm afraid that a car is going to get out of control and come straight into my property, straight into my kitchen or straight into the living room. We don't know. My grandson goes to the church across the street. He walks across. I don't know if there's going to be someone that's not watching what he's doing. We have a shopping center about 3 blocks away from us too, but we haven't had any problems. We love our place. Please consider it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar.
John Yanis, Troy, Texas. Ms. McGuire, the paper right here is in quote. McGuire said, I think, I don't know if the paper can do that. Can they change the words around? I don't know. Did they do it? I don't know. But can we get that corrected? There's a lot. This morning was early. We all work, and a lot of people couldn't get out. But has it caused an issue? Oh yeah, I've had phone calls, and we've had that's all it's talked about. This kind it probably ought to get corrected. I'd like to see it on the paper corrected. If it wasn't true, let's get it corrected.
Since she's here, I think she's already cleared the record. So,
well, it's in writing here, and so I just don't know if people can do that. I guess they can. They did it. Here's a question for the council. Did the green room, did they have to get a CUP?
Yes, you probably can't see it on the map, but the green room is right here, and there's a little print underneath the GR, which is the general retail zoning. There's a CP and then a number, which references a conditional use permit that was approved for the green room.
And that is 55th Street right here, right? That's 57th on the other side, so it is on 55th Street. Okay.
Well, the rear of it is adjacent to 55th, but when people are coming in, they would be coming in on 57th Street.
So what's that? 100 feet? 200 feet away from each other? Okay, and my question is, how does the neighborhood deal with the green room traffic? I'm hoping somebody will come up and comment on that. How do they deal with with those drunks or whatever you want to call them? How do they deal with them, and how have they dealt with them in the past? How long has the green room been there? Has there been any issues? I'd like to know that. As far as the noise, does the green room have music? I don't know. Like I haven't been there. But I do know in this same paper here, what the comments were made, this also states, Robert also stating that he has soundproofed the building. So they didn't twist that around, did they, Robert? He soundproofed it. All right. So I'd like somebody to, and even the green room there, I bet they still go, they leave out 57th Street, or they may go to the neighborhood too. I'm just curious how if there's been any issues with the green room. As I told you earlier, I had grandkids. I have 4 with beautiful grandkids from 7 down. And Robert just stated here that he's going to open from 7 to 2 in the morning. I don't allow my grandkids to be out in the yard anywhere at that time.
Mr. Hallish.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Flores. I live at 419 Big Timber. I'm Robert Flores' wife. I just kind of wanted to speak about the actual lounge that we're having. I just wanted to let y'all know that we are going to have plenty of security out inside and out of the club. We want to work with the Temple Police Department to, kind of, if they can, we can get someone to patrol the area, just to make the residents feel a lot safer. I do not believe that as long as I've lived here in Temple, which is all my life, that the places that we do have, we hadn't had that much of a criminal activity and everything outside of the building. If there were things that, fights or anything that had broke out inside, it's been immediately taken care of and, taken out and away from the area. I just wanted to, I know that y'all given the Green Room a chance before their CUP. You gave them like a 2-year chance, and back in 2008 they had to come back again to see if everything was running smoothly and y'all would reinstate it. And that's all we're asking for is a chance, just to show them that, they're making it like we're a bar open 7 days a week, open all day long, and that's not what we're looking for. We're doing more of an upscale lounge, and we're not going to have just anyone off the street. Of course, there's going to be dress code enforced, and we're going to have staff available for everything. We're not just going to go in there with our eyes closed to see how things go. I know that y'all think that we're the bad guys trying to move into your area, and that's not the deal. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to run a business. We know that it will benefit Temple as far as like on the tax dollars that we bring in. So I just wanted to come out here and just with the real issue, what we're really here for. And I know that the whole subject has moved away from all of that, and I just wanted y'all to get your minds back on what we're really here for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Mr. Fisher, then I'll come to you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kirk Fisher. I live at 4905 Ascot Parkway in Temple, Texas. And if I may, Mr. Flores, I appreciate the promotion, but I'm not the pastor. I'm the treasurer of the church, but I do stand before you representing the session of Grace Presbyterian. The session is a 12-member body that is the governing body of the church, and I have with me the chairman of the board of trustees also with me today. Everything I'm hearing all sounds good and genuine and from the heart. We applaud people like Mr. Flores, provide jobs, provide good things to the economy, and have full respect for his intent to do a good thing for our community. In fact, I teach business. I'm a teacher at the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, so I'm all pro-capitalism. Nevertheless, I have to, on behalf of the church, we have to respectfully oppose the location. We do so based on safety. Our safety argument is predicated on the idea that Grace Presbyterian Church is not simply a house of worship, but we're very much a community center. It is true there's been very little goes on in a Presbyterian church in the summer. Our Logos program for youth, for example, just fired up last night now, and will be going for the rest of the year. And such. So the characterization that it's been quiet for the last 3 months is accurate, but that will not remain accurate over the next six or 8 months. Our safety argument is grounded in fact, not in speculation. As a professor, I immediately went to the academic studies, looking at information from peer-reviewed, refereed journals, as opposed to grabbing a Newsweek and seeing what somebody might have thought. I listed a few of them here. What you have in front of you in the document I handed out, I was able to find in 30 minutes. I'm going to highlight just a couple of them. A 2006 study by the National Center for Alcohol Law Enforcement prepared by the U.S. Department of Justice reported alcohol consumption overwhelmingly increases violent crime. Moreover, the density of establishments, and this would be the third area, increases crime by 3.8 violent crimes per year. Now, I'm in no way inferring from that you're going to have 3.8 violent crimes. That is not my contention. What my contention is that statistically, and this has been studied, three more studies. Camden, New Jersey, neighborhoods with a higher density of alcohol outlets had more violent crime. Study in 74 cities in Los Angeles County showed the same as the Camden study. A 6-year study in California of 551 urban and rural zip codes showed an increase in neighborhood crime with the increase in alcohol availability regardless of type, be it packaged taverns, nightclubs, whatever the case may be. And so my point here is that there's been it's been brought forward that we already have one establishment there and there's packaged goods available at the Quicks outlet. These studies clearly show that more is more, that more will result in more, meaning that if the probability of something bad going on is increased by the presence of one more establishment. On the economic side, which is part of our argument, is simply that if our church becomes less safe, we will suffer economically. We will lose membership, and that would be a problem for us. Although I would say that the safety argument we regard as factual, the economics argument I would characterize as fear. Allow me to address a couple of anticipated arguments that have been sort of addressed in various manners here. The fact that it's legal is not in question. What they're trying to do is legal. Legality, though, is the lowest ethical standard there is. That's the difference between criminal and non-criminal. We're looking for right and wrong here. Again, there's already beer in the area. Density has been proven to be a contributing factor, a problematic thing. The fact that they're going to stay open only on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, we're pretty active often on some of those nights, but also the question is, will it stay that way? Teaching business, I know if it goes well, you expand. That's how it works. Another one would be, should we not minister to, should we not attempt to be a better neighbor? We do minister, but we didn't seek this out. This is coming to us. This is coming into our lap. And so therefore we're going to have to deal with it. The overwhelming evidence from the various studies is that this will indeed somewhat decrease our safety. Should we be a good neighbor? Yes, we should be, but this is an establishment that's going to make its money mostly by selling alcoholic beverages, and let's make it, alcohol makes people stupid, and something bad will eventually happen. A couple of other things. Comment has been made that there's violence everywhere. That's true. I can go along with that. But safety is about beating the odds. I have not had anything close to a car accident for 20 years. I still buckle up every time I get in. Safety is about beating the odds, and therefore the presence of more people who have had just one too many, and it could be as small as, only 1% of the people who show up get a little tooted up, and only 1% of those people who get a little tooted up do something stupid, and only 1% of the people who do things stupid might offer some injury to someone in our church. That's still, it's going to happen eventually, and we just contend that the odds are improved if we're not faced with this. Also notice that the curb cuts would be closed in to keep that's going to pour the traffic. There's still a curb cut on Z. That's going to pour traffic right out into our front yard. If this were a school, if our establishment, our church, was a school and not a church, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It would be clearly too close. Schools are, it's measured property line to property line, not door to door. And the intent of that, obviously, is to protect children. I would urge this group to view Grace Presbyterian having many of the characteristics of a school. We have lots of people coming and going, and we increase the probability, however remote, that somebody is going to get hurt. And we believe that that is inconsistent with the spirit of granting a conditional use permit. So, as I said, we do not object to Mr. Flores' intent, but on the other hand, we must respectfully oppose based on our own interests.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Hilda Ponce. I live at 306 Fowler Road in Temple, Texas. I've known Ms. Flores all our lives. This is the first time I've been to one of these council meetings ever. I heard both sides of the stories. And I understand the neighborhood area's concerns. I understand greatly. I live in a neighborhood that's not so well groomed, so I understand. But I use my tax dollars well, and if there's an issue, I am quick to call the cops. That's what I pay taxes for, and I will quickly call police and have them come out and investigate or look into any concerns that I have. I heard Mr. and Mrs. Flores' side, and it looks like they're trying to do, to me, it seems like they're trying to do something well for the community as well. I don't know if they've decided how that goes with the fence, but that seems pretty realistic to me. He's also saying they're going to have staff members that's going to bring jobs to the community. Security will bring jobs to the community. I know that unemployment right now is ridiculous, and I think it's a really good opportunity to give them a chance and opportunity to try to do something well for the community as well, to bring money in, to bring into the city, because with more people coming in, there'll be more money for the cities. There'll be other things to do and so forth. Like I said, I understand completely what the neighborhoods are saying. They're concerned with their yards and their property and their safety and so forth. But like I said, I feel that if there's an issue that I believe that with the lounge or the bar or any type of establishment, even with a restaurant, there is a limit to where if the bartender thinks that they've had too much, they have to be cut off as well. So I would hold the bar or the owner or the manager completely responsible as well. If they continue to serve people beyond their limit, I would hold them responsible as well. Like I said, I really think it would be an opportunity to try to give them a chance to give them an opportunity and a chance to work this out. If it fails, then it fails, and it tried. But like I said, I understand the community side. I understand completely, but I would strongly ask the city to give them an opportunity and a chance to make this establishment run. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you, Mr.
John Lennox, Troy, Texas. Is there anything been brought up? I know that people are talking about the city property values going down. Is there any documentation that's proving that? Has anybody seen any documentation to prove that? Also, with the gentleman before me just spoke all the facts and everything, and I agree. I bet that's right. But it sounded like it was covering more. Not just the club, kind of the whole, if you want to say the whole city, or the whole alcohol thing. I think the city of Temple will just let alcohol be sold in the city. These places are popping up everywhere now, so it seemed like that would have been brought up at that time. Maybe stop from selling alcohol in the city of Temple. So it sounded like it more broad, it was covered everything, not just a specific club. So I hope, it wasn't taken just for the club, but that was probably the United States. I don't know where he got his facts from, but I agree with the facts. I think he's right. I bet it's true, everything he said. What I don't believe is alcohol makes everybody stupid. A lot of alcohol makes everybody stupid, but alcohol doesn't. If so, then we just allowed for alcohol to be sold in the city of Temple, we're going to have a lot of stupid people. So I hope that's not misinterpreted. A lot of alcohol will make you stupid, but not just alcohol itself.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Sure.
Just a couple points of clarification. I said alcohol makes some people stupid, but and I think we can all agree. I agree with you. It doesn't make everybody stupid. The studies that I have, they were neighborhood studies. Just for clarification, they are neighborhood studies. And the one from Camden, the association was strong even, and this comes straight out of the article, the association was strong even when other neighborhood characteristics such as poverty, age of residents, and other things weren't met. So this was indeed, several of these were studies of closely confined areas, basically neighborhoods and stuff like that. So good question.
Thank you for the clarification. Good. Ms. Hernandez.
Mayor Jones, council members, I'm not allowed to speak. I'm not a Temple resident, but I am a resident of Bell County, and I just wanted to speak to...
If you just state your address, that would be fine.
Cynthia Hernandez, 603 Harper, Holland, Texas. First of all, I want to commend you on your attentiveness and how patient you've been listening to all of our comments. And my comments today are just to support Mr. Flores and his efforts. The City of Temple has done a lot of... They've been real innovative in the past few years, and all of the activity that you have going downtown, all of the festivals, the hot spots that are popping up downtown, and I think that this will just add to the momentum. I don't live in Temple, but I live in Bell County, and like Mr. Yana says, if I want to go to Tejano, to go hear Tejano music, I have to go to Harker Heights or to Round Rock or Austin. And so to have something in our backyard would be really exciting, and it would really draw people to the area. So I wanted to support their efforts and just talk about how it would add to the momentum that the city's created. I am a member of the Belton Young Professionals, and that's one of the things that we've been trying to do for the region is just build excitement about what we have to offer here and keep our dollars here and keep them from spreading out of our area and make people realize what we have to offer in Central Texas. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez.
My name is Judy Burnett. I live at 13 Canyon Creek Drive. I am a member of Grace Presbyterian Church. And I actually have no problem with the opening of the establishment that they're talking about, but just not where it is. The density of the places in Temple is a problem with me, so many close together. I think if it were on the other side of the building, facing 57th, we would have not anywhere near the concerns that we have where it is. I think it's great that such an establishment can be opened in Temple. I think it's a great idea. It's just the place. And that's my only comment, is that I recommend or not vote, I can't vote, ask that you consider that another place would be better. Thank you.
Go ahead. No, she's coming up. We'll get you next.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to usurp all the time. I do appreciate the fact that Mr. Flores and Mrs. Flores seem to have a lot of friends and family, and I think that's wonderful. But I haven't heard, and unless I've missed it, I haven't heard one single person in our community speak for this bar, or lounge, I'm sorry, I don't want to be derogatory. And I don't know, I know he presented you, or is it Mr. Yanis? Yanis. I know he presented you with a petition, and I don't know if anyone from our neighborhood or community has signed that petition, or if it's just throughout the city of Temple, or maybe Belton, I don't know. But I do know that when I checked with the city about my petition, they told me that it would be pretty much futile unless it was people in our immediate location that would be affected by a neighborhood bar. And I did want to mention to Mr. Yanni that people are very easily misquoted. As a matter of fact, he misquoted me, and I don't know where he got this information, but he said that I stated that I attend the Green Room. I don't attend the Green Room. I have never set foot in the Green Room. But on the other hand, I have nothing against the people at the Green Room. That's just not my cup of tea anymore. When I was younger, yes, I would have attended the Green Room. But I think one thing about the Green Room is that it does face 57th Street, and it's further back towards 57th Street, and the traffic is coming and going from 57th Street. And as this last speaker just mentioned, there is a space available in that same building that's adjacent to 57th Street. And I, for one, wouldn't be here if they were opening that bar on 57th Street. I'm not opposed to bars. And I agree with Mrs. Flores and everyone that spoke. That bar will bring money to Temple, and every city needs money right now. I mean, we're in hard times. But money is not as important as people's lives under any circumstances. And I've lost my train of thought. There was a question about if we have any statistics about real estate prices dropping with a bar in the neighborhood. And I don't want to put any of the city council members on the spot, but there is one who has cut his teeth on real estate. And I would like to know how...
I wonder who you're referring to.
I was curious about how well the houses sell that are next door to bars. I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer that. But
I can address, I'll address that.
okay. And I have one other thing that I just wanted to mention. My sister was supposed to read this note, and she got carried away. This, aside from people coming through our door and knocking on our door and phoning us, I received the sweetest little letter yesterday from a lady in the neighborhood, the one she mentioned that lives on 55th Street. And she says, Mrs. McGuire, my name is Helen Overton, and I do not know you, but I guess you could call me your neighbor. I want to thank you for all the time and effort you spent to prevent the club or whatever from locating in our neighborhood. I am so grateful you stopped it. Please excuse my writing. I am almost 89 years old, and everything seems to change at that age. And I called her today, and I went to meet her, and I took her picture. And she asked me to tell you all that she's been widowed for 14 years. She can't come to this meeting. She's walking, but kind of just barely. And she has a lot of pride in her home and her neighborhood. And she said having a bar in the neighborhood for her will make a difference between her daughter allowing her to stay in her home or putting her in a nursing home. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name's Chantel Hernandez. I just want to talk about the location that we were just talking about. There's other places
Could you
like
state your address, please?
911 Patriot Court Temple. And there's Women in Diamonds who had a church next door in the same building. I don't know if it's still there. You have bars in neighborhoods as Goalies. It's in the backyard of the neighborhood. You have your garden in the neighborhood of houses, and then you have a convenience store on Avenue M, I believe. That's in a school zone that sells alcoholic beverages in school hours. So I don't know if you want to use that into consideration, because it's just, you have all those places in a school zone and in residential areas. I just wanted to, you know that, but just wanted to make it clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is John Evans. I'm a little nervous, sorry. Never been up here. We're at 1511 North Main. I'm a bartender for Taqueria. And to let Ms. McGuire answer Ms. McGuire's question, a lot of the signatures that I got for that petition are from people who live in that neighborhood. They all told me they live in that neighborhood, and they're actually excited about the upcoming bar and hopes it passes. The people that own Taqueria are the Leons, and they live in that neighborhood. One of the brothers told me it's actually in his backyard, and he can't wait. I'm nervous, I'm sorry. I will probably be a bartender at my uncle's bar if it does open. I'm TABC certified. I know all the rules for alcohol sales. Thank you.
Where is Taqueria's?
Taqueria, Luke.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh,
In the same
okay.
neighborhood,
Oh,
pretty
I
much.
got you. All right, thank you.
Make it short, guys. I've already read the home. Still service.
Got more to do after this, sir?
Still, yeah, it's car business. First of all, I got my postcards. I didn't bring any postcards. They didn't give me my postcards on time. The
Treasurer, I'm sorry, right? Okay. You know, mentioned some stuff, some facts. I'm glad we don't live in none of those areas, of course. And we're taking away a lot, again, from the city of Temple. We got one of the best cities, one of the quiet cities. A lot of it, of course, is Temple PD. But we haven't heard nothing from them because, you know, we have actually one of the best cities, one of the low crimes in the area. And I believe they've done a good job in the whole city, not just this location or everywhere else. So I believe they'll be in a big part of in the area. Same goes for the fire department. Like I said, we're taking away from the city of Temple. We're talking away from different places, this and that. But like I said, we live in one of the best cities. You know, logo for the city of Temple is, you know, choose Temple. You know, so we're trying to attract a lot of people back to Temple. I've been doing everything with TABC, working with TABC, working on, of course, the alcohol license. That still has to go, and that's like going through a lie detector test too. So that's a lot of requirements I have to go through that. And if this permit does get approved, of course, y'all be overlooking the majority of, you know, every month. I believe y'all be able to send, you know, auditors, and that still got to fit the guidelines with the permit. At any time, y'all have the power to revoke the permit too as well. So, like I said, I believe we've follow all the guidelines to apply for the conditional use permit that we're doing. And like I said, going back to the church, you know, we're not going to be open the time the church is going to be open. I'm going to be at church myself. So at the times that church is open, I'll be at church myself. So this is a night where only adults can hang out. You know, have some drinks, socialize with friends and family, and go home. Like I said, we'll be working again with the full staff security that has a lot of present and past police officers. And we'll be working inside the building, outside the building. We've gone to the extent where we're going to be working and help patrol the area too. You know, I don't know if the neighborhood has, you know, a neighborhood watching area. You know, that will probably benefit the neighborhood. Ms. McGuire mentioned last time how would it benefit the neighborhood. That may be something that I'll actually propose to, you know, add to the neighborhood too. Helping the neighborhood be a little more safer if y'all don't have that already too. So we've done a lot to hopefully open this up. And like I said, totally is y'all's choice and everything. But I appreciate for y'all's time here tonight and everybody else. I know everybody's ready to go. But like I said again, you know, we all live in Temple because it's one of the safest communities in the area. And again, it's made out to y'all, the fire department, of course, the city of Temple, the police department. So like I said, we have one of the great cities in Texas. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council comments, questions for anyone?
A couple of questions or clarifications. The conditional use permit goes with the building. Property sold, correct? The conditional use permit stays with that building?
Runs with the land.
Runs with the land. So once it's with that label, it stays there?
Is it limited to that specific area that's highlighted in the buildings? It's not something that can float throughout the building, can move to the other end, or
It's
apply
just
to
for the lease
entire
space.
building? Just for the lease space itself. But once for that lease space, then always for that lease space unless revoked for cause.
Correct.
And second, is there a possibility in trying to get some common ground here as far as the lease space on the other end of the building? Is it available, not available? Is the client willing to do that? I'm not sure. I've heard from at least a couple, I guess, that said that would be okay. I don't know if that's any agreement there. And it seems to me a lot of times in issues, issues we have like this, we work them out that way, and everybody goes home happy. And I would just thought I'd throw that out there and see if that's a possibility. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Others comments? Mr. Dunn?
If I may, and to address Ms. McGuire, I am a licensed Texas real estate broker in my day job, but I don't know if it's appropriate for me to talk about property values and the effect of a bar or a lounge in this setting. However, as a member of the Temple City Council, the location of this lounge does raise some concerns for me. However, that's not to say that in another location I would have those same feelings. I appreciate Mr. Flores and his family wanting to invest in the city, but I do have some current concerns about this particular location.
Other comments? Anyone? I'd have to echo Mr. Dunn's comment in that regard. I do hope that there's the possibility of getting such a lounge in our community, in maybe a place that, I mean, all I can do is speak for me personally. I can't speak on behalf of the council, but that would be more appropriate. I'm concerned I'm going to err on the side in my deliberation, my vote on this. I'm going to err on the side of preservation of the neighborhood. When these people moved to this neighborhood, I presume they've been there a long time. It was either a grocery store, it was an office building, or it was vacant. And so I think this can have the effect of changing the character of the neighborhood. The green room may be there, and that CUP may have been issued under this council, or my time on here, just don't think there was an outcry at the time of objection when that was brought forward. But to Mr. Fisher's points, an accumulation of that of alcoholic sales of use could, ultimately change the character of the neighborhood, and I personally will err on the side of preservation of the community and the neighborhood, but certainly am not opposed to the lounge concept. Would hope that you will or someone will bring a lounge to our community of this type, and it sounds like it'd be very, very beneficial. Create jobs, create economic prosperity for yourselves as well as for the community, and sales tax dollars and employment and the like. So, but
I'd also like to add, the conditional use permits, it seems to be with the package stores and situations like this are tough decisions for a council and for the neighborhood, because it directly affects the people around it and where it's brought in the surroundings around there. And I agree with the mayor. I have in my own mind where those establishments are to be put in the city. I've kind of got that in my own mind, and I too think that the effect of the lounge, and I'm not opposed to lounge and Tejano. I love Tejano music. I like Mexican food, and it's not a bad deal. But I do not believe we ought to affect the neighborhood with that moved there. It wasn't there in the beginning, so I kind of err on the side of the mayor. Not casting a vote yet, of course, but and I would urge that if there is an opportunity for this type of facility in our city, that we find a place where it would make sense to put it and be compatible with the neighbors. So I think that's our job to determine with the conditional use permit, is it compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, and who will it affect or not.
before I ask for action by the council, I would like to say to each and every one of you who spoke here today, thank you for taking the time to participate. Thank you for your tone and the dialogue. I think it was very well done, and I appreciate your input and feedback to the council. It is very valuable for us, so thank you all for being here and taking the time. That being said, council, I'll entertain a motion if you are ready on the item of conditional use permit for the property in question.
Motion to deny item 6.
Second. We have a motion and a second for denial of the conditional use permit for the property in the Skyline Section 1 at 2327 South 57th Street. Is there further discussion or comment?
So an aye vote will be to deny.
That's correct. That's correct. So, Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Again, thanks to all of you for your participation. Item 7 is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a zoning from agricultural district to single-family 2 district on 35.49 acres of land being out of the Maximo Moreno Survey, A14, Bell County, Texas, located along the east side of South Fifth Street across from Wyndham Hill Parkway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The applicant for this case is W&B Land Development. The purpose is to establish a single-family subdivision, tentatively known as Echo Vista 3. Probably the temptation is to think of and discuss some planning issues for this case, but I remind you this is a rezoning case, and you're looking at whether the proposed land use is appropriate for the area. And so just as a reminder for this proposed zone change from agricultural to single-family. The subject property is shown in yellow on the aerial, fronting on South Fifth Street with the red line represents a railroad to the rear. The existing subdivisions known as Echo Vista are shown on the screen. Echo Vista 1 and 2 are shown to the north of the subject property, and then, as I said, this one would be Echo Vista 3 covering the highlighted area. There's a single-family subdivision to the west across from South Fifth Street. To the north is undeveloped. To the south is undeveloped, and then church you see in the distance, and then to the east is undeveloped as you would hit the railroad tracks and cross them where the property line ends. The future land use and character map designates this property as auto-urban resident, or as suburban residential, with this request complying with that recommendation on the map. South Fifth Street is designated as a major arterial on our thoroughfare plan, and the request complies with that recommendation. There are various water and sewer lines in the area. The plat for the property, though, will be establishing throughout the subdivision adequate water and sewer lines for the residents there. The citywide trails and master plan calls for a local connector trail 6 to 8 feet toward the rear of the property and meeting up with Fifth Street. The applicant wishes to provide such trail dedication and construction through the planning process, and that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission via the preliminary plat. The Parks Master Plan also speaks of parks in the area, and the applicant and the city staff are continuing to discuss the trail issue and the parks fee and park space issue so that all needs are met and the citizens of the subdivision will be able to enjoy as much of those amenities as possible. The map on your screen right now shows the rezoning for the area, or the zoning for the area. The church that I showed earlier sits in this piece of land that's still agricultural, which a church is an allowed use in the agricultural zoning district. Most of the other things you see on the screen are single-family to zoning, which matches what is being requested in this case. This shows the dimensional standards for single-family 2 zoning: a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet, minimum lot width of 50 feet, lot depth of 100 feet, and a maximum height in stories of 2.5 stories. Single-family 2 has a 25-foot front setback with 5-foot side yard setbacks, 15 feet if it's along the street, and a 10-foot rear yard setback. 8 notices were mailed to surrounding property owners. 2 were returned in approval, and 1 was returned in disapproval of the request. At its most recent meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission met on this case and voted 6-0 to approve the rezoning for ZFY 1047 from agricultural to single-family 2 because the request complies with the future land use and character map, it complies with the thoroughfare plan, and adequate public facilities will serve the property via the plat. And at this point, I could answer many questions you might have on this rezoning case.
Thank you, Mr. Mabry. Questions from council on this item? Mr. Janczak?
Do you by chance know what school district this plat will be in?
I would hazard a guess that it's Temple with the elementary school being fairly close. I don't think it's so far south that it's in
Academy line. I didn't know where that line was.
I think Wyndham Hills in the Little River Academy. So I don't know if Fifth Street's a dividing line or that, but
Okay.
yeah, it's very close. And
With regards to the fence on the front, is there some requirements there across the front?
Along Fifth?
Yes. I recall we had made some requirements there a little bit stricter, I guess you'd say, or more structurally sound. If you recall, from about, I don't know, the northwest corner of that property going north of the existing facilities, those fences blew down. And it seems to me that a subdivision just up the street from which would be to the south of the church, we required a little bit more stringent guidelines on the fencing, as far as maybe a footing or a concrete pillar every so often.
There were, I guess that would be a plan development, most likely, that was approved that contemplated and had specifics for fencings for that subdivision. This, of course, is a base rezoning to single-family too. We don't require a fence around a subdivision. I do know, just from knowing what the proposed layout of the subdivision is, that there's not there's access onto Fifth Street, and a lot of times when that happens, there ends up being a fence along those rear property lines. But there's nothing that we've discussed just as part of a plain vanilla rezoning, is requiring or stipulating any certain kinds of fence types for this subdivision.
I remember it was the residential subdivision that was...
I absolutely recall it, and it does have some kind of fence. I can't remember the exact name of the subdivision or the occasion, but it was not that long ago. And I guess to add to that, doesn't the subdivision directly across the street have some kind of fence on it?
well, I think what is the homeowners association has been the government. That they're responsible for the fence and the maintenance of the fence, and so the last few that we've had that have been issues related to that, there have been homeowners associations affiliated with that.
I thought we had required something there
I don't think we're
on the planning process, but maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't recall that.
And during the public hearing, I'll remind the council that the applicant's here and has some information on fencing as well.
Okay, if the applicant's here, I don't have any problem with the applicant speaking even before the public hearing, if we can address some of the issues that are related to questions for the council. But still, if you'd state your name and address for the record, I'd appreciate that.
Garrett Nordi, 3000 Illinois Avenue, Killeen, Texas. And Mr. Schneider, I think you brought that up. It was some time ago. I was here for another annexation. You asked the same question. I don't know if we were definitive at that time, but you had asked if we could do a fence similar to what's at Wyndham Hills. And the answer is yes, we can do something like that.
Do you happen to know what school district the property's in?
A portion of it is in Little Academy. I don't know where the line is.
Okay. Other questions from the council? This item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak before the council, please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to making your comments. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask for your support on this project and, of course, address any other questions or concerns that you might have. It was brought up that there's some conversations still going on with the Parks Department. We have a meeting tomorrow. I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Spore, and he's done a great job for the city, and we value our relationship with him, and I'm convinced that we could work through this and come to a mutual agreement on how we could best benefit this area of town with parks and improvements.
Is the trail, is that sidewalk, effectively?
It's not along a street, like a normal
Okay, it is not.
sidewalk.
Okay,
But
all
it's
right.
at the
So it's-
rear of the properties.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak before the council? Council, any other questions for the applicant? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and Council, your pleasure on the first reading of the zoning change request from agriculture to Family District 2.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Dunn.
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Item 8 is a first reading and a public hearing. Consider adopting an ordinance approving a negotiation settlement between the Atmos Cities Steering Committee and Atmos Energy Corporation Mid-Tex Division regarding Atmos Mid-Tex's third rate review mechanism review mechanism filing to be considered on an emergency basis. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the council. I think we've got a PowerPoint we'll pull up here, but this is a first and final reading of this ordinance. We're proposing to adopt it on an emergency basis because there's a deadline for approval of this mechanism that we're working with. So if I can pull this up for 1 minute. It does require a public hearing. I know there's a representative from Atmos here in the audience, Mr. Doug Hill, who may be able to answer any questions you might have. Is that first slide, Steve? Yes, okay. All right, go ahead. Sorry. I want to first talk about the fact that what this is a ordinance that is approving a settlement between the city and a proposed settlement between the city and Atmos Energy Corporation. It is actually an agreement that has been reached, a settlement agreement by a number of cities that are served by Atmos. It's about 100 and almost 50 cities that are doing that. I want to talk a little bit about the background. This is the third one I think we've done. That's called our RRM, and talk to you about what that is. It's an acronym for Rate Review Mechanism, and it's a process. There's a statutory process that is allowed for under law, under which a gas company like this can come forward and under the statutory process, there's cities that are served by gas companies have primary jurisdiction. A gas company can come in and will, in their system, file rate cases. They file those in each city. Each city rules on that. Then those decisions are quite often appealed to the state. Often there are different groups of cities that get together that evaluate those proposals. As you work your way through that system and you have an appeal before the Railroad Commission, you have a lot of expenses incurred both by the cities that are reviewing those and by the company itself. Those expenses in return can be recovered by the gas company when they implement their rates. So that can be a time-consuming process. It doesn't have some of the flexibility of the RRM process, and it can be more expensive to ratepayers because ultimately those rate expenses can be passed on to consumers. So the cities that were reviewing those old rate cases came up and worked with Atmos to develop a formula that we think has several advantages, and the city signed on to that process because we're a member of this coalition of cities a few years ago. And basically what it allows to do is kind of what I would call a negotiated rate case, where Atmos files the data for their rate making or for their case with this coalition of cities. The cities hire experts. We analyze that. We sit down, we negotiate those expenses, and if we reach a settlement, then it's proposed to all of the member cities. So that's what we have here today. It's a faster process, we think, in a lot of ways. On the city side, that it's a little bit more comprehensive. We kind of focus our energies on doing that, and it's better for cities. Okay. This particular case, as I said, is really the third RRM case that's come forward. It was filed with a group back in March. Atmos originally sought this matter before you really has two parts, but the main part of it, the actual rate increase, they asked for a $70.2 million rate increase. The steering committee worked with them to analyze that. There were negotiations. Out of that original $70 million request, we were able to negotiate, agree on a settlement, a proposed increase system-wide of about $27 million, and under this proposed settlement, the rates would go into effect for bills rendered on or after October 1st, 2010. Based on that proposed settlement amount, that works out to an average residential customer receiving an increase of about $1.40 per month, which represents about a 3.5% increase. On commercial side, those numbers work out to about $3.82, or about a 3.15% increase, and average industrial customer about $81 a month, or 0.41% increase. This also, those numbers I want to point out to you, there's a second part of this settlement, or their rate case. So that $70 million was basically for operations for the sale. There's a second part, which is a program, and perhaps Mr. Hill can speak to this a little bit more, but Atmos and other gas companies in the state have been they've had programs that look at the life of the last bit of connection from their system to homes, which is that service line. In many cases, you've got steel service lines, and while steel service lines are perfectly adequate, over a period of time, you can have problems with those and leaks and different things. So there has been, I think, some pressure both at the state level and through our coalition of cities to encourage Atmos to have a replacement program for those steel service lines, and we think it's a good thing from a safety standpoint for cities and those customers. We have been working with them, and so a second part of this request is for about a $3.4 million expense allotment, if you will, for replacement of those lines. And I think the proposal is to, over the next 2 years, they would take the most seriously oldest and most damaged or potentially damaged of those lines, replace about 100,000 lines over the next 2 years. And so they've got some dollars in there. So when I say the average residential increase would be $1.40, that includes about $1.24 for the actual rate case for gas, and about 16 cents of that for the allocation dollars for this service line replacement. So we think that's a good program. And again, it does require a public hearing, and we're doing this on a single reading emergency basis. Mr. Hill is here, and between us, we'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Council, questions for Mr. Graham?
If I understand it correctly, this, what we're adopting here tonight, this ordinance, is really a result of the negotiations with the coalition.
It is.
And so, however many number of cities are being asked to adopt the same ordinance. So
That is correct.
it's that collective bargaining that occurred.
I really want to emphasize, one of the benefits of it is that these expenses that they're incurring through this process, those don't get passed on to customers in the same way if they went through a traditional rate case where they have expert testimony and all that.
Thank you.
Other question? If not, this is the first and final reading and a public hearing, so I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to making your comment.
My name is Walter Disley, live 301 Mitchell Drive. What will the lines be replaced with?
Mr. Hill?
All right.
Doug Hill.
Yeah, that's me.
My name's Doug Hill with Atmos Energy, and my office is 1500 West Loop 340 in Waco. What we'll do, Mayor and Council, thanks for allowing me to be here, is we'll replace those steel lines with polyethylene. If that existing steel service line is serving pounds pressure, we will actually, at the main where the tap is, we'll cut a small section of pipe out. We'll also do the same thing where the point of measurement is, or the meter and we'll insert that polyethylene inside that steel line. That way, it reduces the amount of excavation that we have, and therefore, hopefully, the restoration won't be as visible or costly to everyone that's involved. Does that help answer your question, sir? No. Okay.
What pressure are these lots?
Normally on an intermediate system or a pound system, we operate anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds on an annual basis.
They're not high-pressure lines?
No, sir. No, sir. We also have what we call low-pressure systems. Those systems serve from a district regulator station, if you will. One regulator station serves numerous customers. And in those cases, we'll replace that service line size on size because, again, it's low pressure, and we don't want to do anything that would limit or impede the service to the customer.
Mr. Hensley, other questions that you have for him or other comments you'd like to make?
I'm sorry?
Or other comments that you'd like to make?
What? How much is it going to cost me?
A residential customer, it'll be 15 or 16 cents a month.
That's for replacement?
Yes, sir.
The average, what is the average usage cost?
The average usage increase to you as a consumer is $1.24.
$1.24.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley.
Is that 16 cents a month for replacement of that service? Is that a one-time shot? Is that for the rest of the life?
No, sir. That's per month.
I mean, but for how long?
For 2 years, first 2 years under this agreement. And then it'll all be reanalyzed, council member, at the end of 2 years.
Questions for Mr. Hill?
Comments? Ma'am,
It sounds like, what, $5?
Sir?
That's pretty cheap. 16 cents.
Yes, but we're looking at it over 1.5 million customers through the division.
It's a system-wide rate. They're adding 16 cents to residential bills that will pay for this program to replace 100,000 lines over 2 years.
If I could just add to this, we purchased this system in October of 2004, and up through March, or up until March of this year, we had already replaced over 51,000 steel service lines. And we do that if we go out to a job site even today, and we find that there's an issue with the steel service line, we don't just patch it, we replace it while we're there. So this 100,000 is in addition to our normal day-to-day work, if that provides some more clarity to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and council, your pleasure on this first and final reading to consider this negotiation settlement.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion is second. Is there further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Dunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 9 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the final plat of Temple Dollar General, an approximately 11.86-acre, two-lot, non-residential subdivision located on the south side of State Highway 36, west of Cedar Ridge Park Road, in Temple's western ETJ, with developer requested exceptions to sidewalks, water lines, and fire hydrants of the subdivision ordinance. Mr. Mabry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This 11.86-acre two-lot non-residential plat is shown on your screen. Right now, one lot is to be 5 acres, and then the lot with the proposed Dollar General is to be the rest, 6.8 acres. The vicinity map on the plat shows the location of the property northwest of the Moffett Road intersection, past the FM 2409 Cedar Ridge Park Road intersection. It's about a quarter mile outside of the city limits. This is an aerial of the subject property with the city limit borders just peeking out from the bottom of the aerial on the screen. The DRC Development Review Committee deemed the plat administratively complete on September 1st, 2010. Park fees are not required for this plat since it's non-residential, and you are the final final approval authority since the applicant requests exceptions to the subdivision regulations and the fire code. The exceptions are shown. The requested exceptions are shown on the screen. The first is an exception for the 6-foot wide sidewalk required along State Highway 36, which is an arterial on the thoroughfare plan. The justification for that is that there always has to be the first person to put a sidewalk in, but this one is quite far away, over, I would say, a mile from any existing sidewalks. Section 3397 has to do with water line size, waiving the minimum required 6-inch water line to allow 2-inch water line for services from the Moffett Water Supply Corporation. This is not a city maintained line, it's from Moffett Water Supply, and that was the justification for that request. And then the third being the fire hydrant placement along the street. Moffett Volunteer Fire Department serves this area, and they do not use hydrants in fighting their fires. They have pumper apparatuses that they fight their fires with. And so that was the justification and the basis for that exception request. On September 7th, 2010, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to approve this final plat with the following exceptions that I just described to you as part of their approval. And at this point, I can answer any questions that the council might have on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Mabry. Council, any questions on that? If none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the resolution for the plat.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of the final plat of the Temple Dollar General. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Dunn.
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Item 10 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the preliminary plat of residences at D'Antoni's Crossing Phase 3, a 6-lot residential and 1-lot non-residential subdivision on the east side of South 31st Street, north of the residences at D'Antoni's Crossing Number 2, with developer requested exceptions to the subdivision ordinance requiring that a plat conform to adopted city plans. Mr. Mabry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This aerial shows the location of the subject property and the kind of the gap between the two subdivisions to the north and to the south. Showing the submitted plat on your screen. The commercial lot is here along First Street, and then there's two lots that were kind of adjusted in size here to the south, and then the 4 newly created lots that end in the cul-de-sac here off of the already approved subdivision to the south are here with these 4 residential lots. And again, just a vicinity map for the subject property. The Development Review Committee deemed the plat administratively complete on September 1st, 2010. 6 residential lots and 1 non-residential lot. The zoning in the area is single-family 3 and agricultural. One of the conditions for approval is the rezoning of the agricultural area to single-family 3 for the residential lots and agricultural to neighborhood service for those non-residential lots. In lieu of park fees in the sum of $900, which are $225 per newly created residential dwelling, the city staff requests a 20-foot wide trail easement along the north plat boundary of the property in compliance with the citywide trails master plan. The applicant has requested an exception to that recommendation, and so therefore we're bringing it to City Council for your approval. And staff, does not support the requested exception. Wanted to run through 2 quick scenarios for you, looking at the parks or the trails master plan. I know there's a lot of lines on the screen. The key at the top left of the screen shows the 3 different trail types that are shown on the map or on the aerial. The dotted white line is the continuation of South 31st Street as it goes south and then makes 2 large curves and then straightens out again, just to orient you. The subject property is shown, and I tried to have a large scale, but unfortunately that makes the property we're talking about pretty small. Is in red and hatch marks on the screen. 31st Street, as I said. The staff and the applicant agree that the trail being shown to the rear of the property is probably not viable because it cuts through 2 existing subdivisions, and the likelihood of acquiring trail easement and constructing a trail through that area is not likely. So at some point in the future, we'll be presenting an amendment to the Trails Master Plan with at least that link removed from the plan for your approval. In the title of the slide, as you can see, is if the exception is not granted and a trail easement is required, a pedestrian coming up from the South 31st Street area wishing to use the future trail system would be able to take the orange route if they were heading down toward Friars Creek, which leads into the Leon River farther south. Would be able to take the orange route shown, take the east-west trail that's at the north end of the property, and then continue south on the proposed alignment that you see on the screen. The next slide, which is very similar, same background, same scale, is if the exception is granted and a trail easement is not required along that north property line, east and west, you get those 2 segments would be removed from the trails plan, which staff believes would kind of render the other connecting trails farther east non-viable as well. So those would go away, and a pedestrian wanting to use the trail coming from 31st Street, for an example, would be heading south and then would need to take a proposed potential trail along the Georgetown Railroad that you see on the dotted red lines on the screen, and then continue south along 31st once they hit that portion. So just trying to give you a picture of what the exception approval or disapproval does to the trails plan in the future. On September 7th, I'll present the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. On September 7th, they voted 5-0 to approve the preliminary plat of residences at DeAntes Crossing 3, subject to the following: City Council approval of the rezonings that would need to happen for the subdivision, approval of the exception to the east-west trail connector recommended by the Citywide Trails Master Plan, and acceptance of the $900 park fee, and then the normal recommendation boilerplate that we use any additions or alterations to the engineering plans that the engineering department would need. The staff recommendation is the same thing except for the second bullet point, which is rather than the $900 in park fees, the addition of a 20-foot wide trail easement along the North Platte boundary as recommended by the Citywide Trails Master Plan. And at this point, I can answer any questions that the council might have on this case.
Do you have an easement behind Deerfield currently?
Deerfield being here, the subdivision to the north, no, that does not. That would be if
I'm sorry, and that's developed, right?
Deerfield is developed, yes. If the property to further east were to be developed with a plat anytime soon, and this line were still on the park or the trails plan, we would be requesting an easement along that undeveloped side of the property.
But that portion from this property's northwest corner going northwest to Deerfield, that's developed.
Yes.
Today. So you don't have an easement there, so you'd basically be going through, so that should be X'd out as well, right? Because going south, you exit out because you're not going to get an easement across developed property, correct?
And I'm hearing you referring to where I'm trying to hover the mouse over this area?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm not...
To the east of the Deerfield subdivision that's built out, I think Friars Creek runs right behind that
Yes,
subdivision,
okay.
and so
Yes.
I think he's asking, is it possible to retain that trail portion along that east portion of Deerfield as it currently stands, or is that already eliminated because of the development?
As it stands now, the way I'm thinking, to answer it is that this undeveloped piece of land here to the east, if it were platted and we had the plan as it is shown now without the, things removed on it, that that an easement of 20 feet, as we're requesting on this plat, would also be required for the development of the property to the east.
So your trail's still intact right now, as Deerfield is, and presuming you get it in before any more of that property is sold or developed to the east of that trail map.
That's not developed to Friars Creek?
On the other side of it, isn't it?
Well, you'd have to cross the creek with a bridge and then connect. But I'm talking, well, not there. You'd have to go down further. Right. So you're talking about the property on the east side of the creek. If it was to be developed, you'd require a 20-foot easement.
Yes, sir.
I see. Okay.
Sorry.
I thought the trail was on the west side of the creek and just kind of what's wrong.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, it's just,
And of course,
it's a generalization as to the
right,
location.
Conceptual lines.
I just thought you may already have 20-foot easement behind Deerfield.
No, sir. No.
Okay. Understand. Takes me a while. Slow.
And so has there been discussion with the applicant relative to the connection to 31st Street to allow that to be
Right,
continuous?
and not agreeing to the easement. And there's probably a representative here. There's not a public hearing associated with this,
Right.
of course.
But we can ask questions of the applicant if there's a representative here. So, but, I mean, if you had discussions with them and they're okay with
Right,
it,
yes,
the staff recommendation is to...
There's, the staff recommendation is to have the easement as part of the plat, and the applicant's request is to not have the easement as part of the plat.
Right, but how about the connection to 31st Street so we can keep the trail continuous?
He's talking about on the frontage of 31st Street.
So you're, yeah.
The
So that
applicant
little
is...
connection to the north...
North-south.
To the north of the property is where you're looking to have the connection, correct? With the trail where it would stop right now, coming out of Deerfield, and then go to the north border of the property between Deerfield and this plat application to connect to 31st Street to go down and to reconnect with the Friars Trail to leading to the Leon River.
Right, the east-west connection is the kind of point of contention, basically.
So is the applicant in agreement to that, or?
No.
Okay.
No, not in agreement to the east-west easement.
But it's staff's recommendation that there be that connection, and then that's in lieu of the $900 park fee.
Correct.
Okay, all right. The applicant's representative here, say, you, sir? Good evening.
Evening, how are you? Bobby Arnold, 5297 South 31st Street. I am the applicant, the owner of the existing property. Can we show, that'd be great. When we initially had purchased, we initially purchased the corner property, which is known as D'Antoni's Crossing, and then the 10 acres next to that property became available for sale. And I purchased that property in 2008, summer of 2008, a little over 2 years ago. Part of the reason that I purchased that property was in connection to my existing subdivision, being concerned obviously about what was going to happen next to it, because we've tried to do a subdivision with homes that we consider to be pretty high-end homes. We've got homes starting in the 300 range and going up over 600. When we purchased the 10 acres there, one of our big concerns with that property was at that time, if any of you recall, there actually was a connector street. I think we call that a major arterial road that was being discussed to connect 5th Street to 31st Street. And I was obviously not interested in purchasing the property if that easement was going to be required. So the owners of the property at that time, being Merlin and Joanna Moore, made sure that that easement was not there so we could purchase the property without any easements. And because of that, we paid a premium for that property. It's a really unique piece of property in that there are no easements on it, and in addition to that, the lot does not go to center line of creek, it actually goes across the creek. So I don't know if you have the plat that we're applying for. If you will notice on our lots, the two lots that actually sit on the creek, the thing that makes those two lots being 2 acres in size each is that they completely cross the creek. So, sorry about that. So they will actually own the entire creek as well as an acre on the other side of the creek, being the east side. So that's what makes those have a premium value. We have a current buyer that is ready to start construction on a home. That's what makes it attractive to him, is there is no public access in his backyard. I don't think we've got a lot of people right now building homes in the TISD in that $1 million range, and I would hate to see us lose somebody because we're going to put the public access in his backyard. But he's made that clear that if that happens, he will not build there. So that's my concern, again, is when we initially started the process, there were no easements back there. We already know now that the proposed plan that did show the access all the way going south, being through Springwood Creek, through Misty Creek, that portion of the trail has been abandoned because that's not going to happen. The other problem that we have with that is if we do cross over the creek, the current owner of the 25 acres on the east side of the creek is not interested in giving his 20-foot easement because those creek lots that he will potentially have will be the most valuable lots that he has. And a 20-foot trail will cut off his most valuable creek lots from the creek access. So there are a number of issues going on there. Again, for me, primarily, my concern is what that's going to do to the value of my property. I'm totally on board with trails. I think it's a great idea. I'm just not aware of us going in and taking that amount of property from high-end properties that people have paid a premium for that were not encumbered with any kind of easements at the time of purchase. That would be my concern for us as the city, when people are going in and paying premium for not only commercial property but high-end residential development, that the city can come back at any point in time and force an easement if the applicant chooses not to do that.
Well, that's why we're talking, and to make sure we understand where you are with it. And so, understand the issue with being along Friars Creek, which runs right through the middle of those potential lots. Yes, sir. Now, but as far as that east-west, which would run, I guess, parallel to that Fox Glen Lane, which is part of Deerfield, I presume. Yes, sir. So that's an issue there. And what are we talking?
It's 20 feet.
About 20 feet? Is
20 feet from there, then it would come down. You can see we're missing a little corner there, I guess, from when Deerfield was developed. So it will cut in on that one lot over and then cut across to the creek. So you can see it makes a lot that probably has an over $200,000 value lose value tremendously by having public access down the side and the backyard.
Would you not anticipate that those would have fences in the back of those properties, or?
Well, I think one of the concerns would be not only the access down the sideline of the fence, but then the bridge or whatever's going to be built across that creek. I can't imagine a fence on both sides of the bridge. And then when they get over to the property on the other side, the access or the view back upon that property from the back.
Is there a fence now down your boundary with Deerfield?
Yes, sir.
And brick, wood?
Wood, primarily 6-foot cedar fences by the existing homeowners that live in Deerfield, fences that each resident built.
So this proposed easement would be along that fence line?
Yes, sir.
So cutting off of your property as opposed to theirs?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So it would presumably put a trail in between two fences if...
I believe it poses a problem areas for crime and everything else. I mean, it's fences on both sides. It's not like it's going out through a pasture or similar to the other trails we've done. I just think it would be a poor choice to try to take that easement there. That creek is always going to be a problem if you have buyers that own that land up to the creek or on the other side. That's an attraction for a backyard, and we'd want traffic to the backyard. So I think we need to, if this does not pass, or if it passes with the exception that Mr. Arnold's asking, I would suggest that maybe Parks just kind of refigure that somehow to where maybe using the railroad footprint and 31st Street and somehow tie it in the other direction where we're not impeding on high-dollar property and potentially taking 20-foot easements, and those trails are quite wide.
Well, they become that way.
Yes, like 12 feet. I mean, so you could actually drive back there if a person really wanted to. So.
Well, I agree with Councilmember Snyder, because people, if you have a creek in your backyard, that's a real selling point. People would like to have a home on a creek, and to have somebody walking through there, it's just not appropriate at this place.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I think the trail concept and the trail idea is wonderful, but one of the reasons why we wanted the trails in the first place was to attract people to Temple. And if it keeps people from wanting to build a home or live in Temple in that location, then I think it goes against what we're trying to do in the first place.
Very good. Mr. Arnold, I don't think I'd ever met you before, so it's nice to meet you. Thanks for being here, sir.
Brian, go back to that previous slide, that one right. Go ahead and build the slide. I guess that's my only concern. I fully appreciate and see the plot and appreciate Mr. Arnold's investment and what he's doing down in that corner. It is in my district, but understand, if we don't put that easement there, you're going to kill that trail. You're going to, where there's X's, there's not going to be a trail there.
I think it needs to be killed. In my opinion, Marty, I believe it does need to be killed. I think if you have a property on the other side of the creek, Mr. Arnold's property, I mean, you're not going to have a roadway going along that creek. That's going to be an accent to your property, and that's what you want to buy. That's what you want to purchase. You're not going to want somebody walking behind your house to the creek, or potentially driving on a 12-foot wide trail. I think it needs to be X'd out. Trails are great along street sides and through the neighborhoods and cutting through where they need to. I'm not opposed to trail at all, but in the back of people's properties, and not just a little bit opposed to that. I think it needs to have some different consideration there as far as the direction of that trail.
I don't know that I agree with that by eliminating the trail or even the connection to 31st Street, that it kills that entire trail going backwards. I mean,
I think you can figure something out there, but...
Well, it may not be continuous all the way across Friars Creek, across 93 and going, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to just eliminate a whole trail concept through that area, which currently is undeveloped. And as it developed in the future, if we, I understand when Mr. Arnold purchased the property, that we didn't have the trail plan. It wasn't there. He bought the property on, and so then I don't disagree with his comment that to then just come in there and say, okay, you want it after he's done it, it's a different story. But if we say that there can be some type of trail system in throughout that area between Friars Creek and Hartford Bluff as that's developed, I don't agree that it's just, okay, if we don't do that, then the whole thing's gone. So.
That's just something to put it in front of the property, in the right-of-ways, between the, you know what I'm saying? The city owns that already. There's some right-of-way there that's dedicated for sidewalks, for pedestrian traffic, back of lots.
But it's like the Pepper Creek Trail. I mean, a big part of the character of the trail is the fact that it's in the woods, it's in an area where it's along a creek as opposed to just making a sidewalk along a
city-owned property.
Such as we have at 2305, and that gets a tremendous amount of use. But Pepper Creek, it just has so much character going back through the bioscience area, and this, I can see has that kind of potential. This is a beautiful area back in there, but probably one of the most attractive areas we have yet left to be developed. And so I would hope we can continue to vision some type of trail system back in that area, whether it's looped within that area, it may not be contiguous with something that crosses 93, but I think that's a little ways out anyways. But this whole thing is long-term, so we have to think that way. Okay, that addressed my question, and thank you, Mr. Arnold, for your input and allowing me to understand that there. So thank you.
Also in the future is the Rails to Trails Trail, and then the connection down 31st Street across 93. I think it's not that far for these folks to go to walk if they want to walk.
I think there's a way to get there.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Anything else from Mr. Mabry? If not, council, action on the preliminary plat for the residences D'Antoni's Crossing Phase 3.
Well, I too am all for the trail system, but I just feel it's not appropriate here. I want to make a motion to approve Mr. Arnold's request to pay the park fees instead of donating that land.
Second.
And that motion and that second is for any access to trail, either along the creek or the east-west.
So that's
no easements at all through his area.
Yes.
Correct. On the motion and second. Mr. Graham?
Well, it's the east-west and the one on the east side that's northbound, but there are other easements on that property. I don't want to...
It's authorizing
It's giving him an exception for the...
exceptions.
Well, there's no easement on the east side of the creek.
We're not imposing any additional for the purpose of the trail.
Correct.
Any additional easement. That's what the motion is to not impose. Everybody's clear?
Yes.
We're okay? Council, we're all right? Any further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Dunn.
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna. Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Item 11 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a pass-through financing agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for improvements to the Northwest Loop 363. Mr. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll try to do two things. I'll try to be sensitive to the length of the meeting tonight and also sensitive to the significance of the item that you have in front of you. So I'll try to balance both those and go fairly quickly. We talked about this in the workshop also, and of course, one of my opening comments was also related to the fact that we have been working on this project, and I say we in a very collective and collaborative sense, in a very historical sense. My research indicated that it's been well over 2 decades that this project has been worked on, so certainly not a new project. Council, what you have before you tonight is a request to authorize a pass-through application, action on the pass-through application agreement that would upgrade approximately 4 miles of existing two-lane road on the Northwest Loop 363 from just west of the BNSF Railroad crossing to FM 2305. Those improvements would create a continuous divided 4-lane highway from Northwest Loop 363-85 to Southwest Loop 363 I-35 with recognition of the existing improvements that are in place. The proposed improvements under this agreement would include construction of main lanes, 2 grade separations at Winland Road and SH 36 and 50, Highway 53, ramps, frontage roads, drainage, grading, signage, signals, pavement markings, landscaping, among other things associated with the project. Total project cost is estimated right now to be at $45,097,877. The proposal under the pass-through financing arrangements require us to come to an agreement with TxDOT on the amount that would be reimbursable of the project cost. That amount that we have come to an agreement with on TxDOT is $35,037,877. Approximately $20 million in Category 12 funds is also available to this project, making approximately $15,037,877 that would be eligible for pass-through financing funding. Approximately $10 million, a little over $10 million would be required from the city. We would fund that through multiple sources: revenue, utility bond reallocations, certificate of obligation bond reallocations,
reinvestment zone fund reallocations, and potentially tax rate funding also. Two other notes that I'd like to make with regard to the project. Again, these project costs and city contributions at this point in time are estimates. TxDOT pass-through finance policies allow for up to a 10% overage to also be eligible for reimbursable expenses. Additionally, if those construction costs come in up to 10% below the project cost estimate, then TxDOT pass-through policies allow for the city to utilize those savings toward other project costs. And two other projects that I want to mention that are not related to the pass-through application, but are certainly significant and tied to this project, both historically and currently, are the I-35, what I call the I-35 Troy segment, which TxDOT has now included the Northwest Loop 363 interchange and the direct connector from that interchange and I-35 onto the Northwest Loop. That project is about a little over $135 million. It is funded, and project is set to let sometime next year in 2011. The direct connector to the Northwest Loop is extremely important and significant for our loop and for I-35. And then another project that I want to mention is the BNSF railroad crossing on the Northwest Loop. Again, a project that in previous applications that we have made had been included in our funding proposal. With discussions with TxDOT over the past year or two, they've agreed and have actually let that project. It's a $7.9 million project that has been let, as I said, and the construction is set to commence very, very, very soon. The recommendation before you tonight is to authorize the execution of this pass-through agreement under the terms and conditions that we've set forth. This will be subject to the Texas Transportation Commission approval. We anticipate they will be considering this item at their meeting on September 30th, and they will be in a position likewise to recommend approval from TxDOT staff to the Commission under the same terms and conditions that I've outlined here tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions, be happy to let Tracy go through particulars on the financing arrangements if council would like to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Blackburn. Ms. Bernard, anything you'd like to add?
I think we covered financing thoroughly in the work session. David covered again. Open to any questions or further explanations.
David, do you think this is likely to be the largest single project we've ever undertaken?
I think it probably will be, certainly in terms of a transportation project. I was trying to do some research this afternoon about single largest CIP projects, and this one will be right up there. Real quickly, I've said it in some notes and comments in multiple forums, but there truly is a long history associated with this project, which also means there's a long history of elected officials and staff and community leaders that have worked over a long period of time to make this project a viable project, a feasible project, and hopefully one that is going to be an achieved project here in the near future. So I want to say thanks to all of those folks. We'd be here a long time if we started going through that list. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? Motion to approve, item 11.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution authorizing a pass-through financing agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for improvements to the Northwest Loop 363. Is there further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Dunn.
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our meeting this evening. Thank you very much for your time and your attendance and your participation. We are adjourned.